A very good morning to all the viewers and listeners of Hello Kolkata, a Kolkata Calling podcast series. Like every Sunday, we are back with a very, very special guest today. Our guest today is someone who has spent nearly 3 decades working at the intersection of technology, policy, and nation building. He is an alumnus of Jawaharlal Nehru University, MTech and PhD from IIT Kharagpur, management programs from IIM Ahmedabad, JBIMS, and multiple other programs from IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, IIT Nagpur. He is a former scientist F with the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, project head at RITES, joint director at Directorate of Marine Engineering, Indian Navy, and the founding program director of iDEX-DIO, the Defense Innovation Organization under the Government of India. In his earlier career, he's been officer in charge of Propulsion System Integration, Directorate of Naval Design, Indian Navy, joint director of Fleet Management and Maintenance, Naval Headquarters. Our guest today is Dr. V.K. Rai. Today, he is the CEO of IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. He leads one of India's most respected incubation and innovation platforms, supporting entrepreneurs across the East, Northeast, and beyond across the whole country, with a strong focus on social impact, women-led enterprises, and livelihood creation. Sir is guided by his powerful philosophy of doing well by doing good, building startups and ecosystems that just don't scale businesses, but also change lives. A short note about IIM Calcutta Innovation Park, and we'll listen to more from Sir about his role and what IIM Calcutta Innovation Park is doing. Under the aegis of IIM Calcutta, dedicated to fostering innovation, entrepreneurship, and social impact across India, especially in the East and Northeast. Since its inception, IIMCIP has supported thousands of entrepreneurs and funded hundreds of startups and helped build scalable ventures across sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, sustainability, and social innovation. Without further ado, I'll introduce Sir onto the main stage and we'll listen to his journey and his role at IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. Sir, welcome to Hello Kolkata. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this introduction. And it's a pleasure for me to be talking on this forum of Hello Kolkata.
Yeah. So your introduction would have been very long if I had gone into everything, because it's such a wonderful accomplishment across 3 decades. Sir, before we get into IIMCIP, why it matters for India's innovation story, we'd like to know a little bit about your journey as well, and then we'll flow into IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. Tell us a little bit about your early days, early influences. You got, attracted to a certain kind of career. Tell us about that journey.
My journey, I would say, that started initially from a science school based out of Nainital, and science school Ghodakal, where I did my initial schooling from. And as you know, that science schools have the mandate for preparing students to join armed forces. And I joined National Defense Academy. And this was in 1992. And thereafter, it's been 33, 34 years now, almost. And I've worked with Indian Navy in the technical branch for about 22 years. And for last close to a decade, I've been working in the field of entrepreneurship, innovation, indigenization. And this is a field which is very close to me. And I'm happy to be now heading this institution, this prestigious Section 8 company, IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. Talking about my journey, as I mentioned, that I've been into the technical branch of Indian Navy. So main focus has been towards handling men and machinery. Of course, men comes along with, when you talk about armed forces, handling men and machinery, of course, being a technical branch officer, it came along with that. What I realized in over 2 decades there is that there's huge dependency on imports when it comes to the major machinery on board ships, the firefighting systems, the weaponry, almost everything. If we talk about during the initial phases of growth of Indian Navy, there was huge dependency on for imports. And for the major machinery and weapon systems, this has still largely remained so. So somewhere in the back of my mind, I always had this idea that let's get into indigenization in a big way. Why can't we make these machinery ourselves? And we have a very, very strong legacy of entrepreneurship, which of course during later things we'll talk more on this. So talking about legacy and especially being based out of Calcutta, it's always a great honor in the city which gave birth to the Swadeshi movement.
Absolutely.
So very happy to be sharing my views, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship and promoting science and technology. If I talk about last 7-8 years after my retirement from armed forces, I joined since I had done my management course from IIM Ahmedabad, I was nominated a jury member for selection of startups for running this iDEX scheme. And later on, I joined as founding program director to run this entire scheme to onboard startups and infuse innovations into armed forces. Of course, this was the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, where he brought out that this was in 2017 and 18. In that during that period, he brought out that we had already become third largest startup ecosystem in the world, and at the same time, we still had a strong dependency. Our armed forces a strong dependency on imports. So what was suggested was that why can't we marry the startup ecosystem to meet some of the requirements for armed forces, some of the innovations that are being taken from abroad, why can't we meet those requirements through some startups, indigenous startups? And that's how this idea of forming a company called Defense Innovation Organization, through which we run this scheme called iDEX, was started. And I was fortunate, I had just completed my management course from IIM Ahmedabad. I'd become their alumnus. I was also alumnus of IIT Kharagpur, and I was at the right time and right place to sort of get selected for this particular role. And then that's how the DIO and iDEX was born. And through this, we are happy to leverage a lot of startups and new innovations, getting them into armed forces. And subsequently, close to 2 years working in this particular sector, I moved to DST Technology Development Board as scientist F. And there the role was similar, funding commercialization of indigenous technologies, handling national awards, handling programs under GITA, that is Global Innovation Technology Alliance, which was of course later closed. But that was again a very unique experience where I could see the kind of support that government was giving to commercialization of indigenous technologies, and in general, the indigenization efforts from corporate side. So that was a great learning. And subsequently, after having served in DST, I joined one of the companies which was designed to start indigenization of marine gas turbine engines, the engines which propel our frontline warships. Those engines, there was a plan to start making them in India. And I joined this company and worked there for another 2 years plus. And subsequently, this requirement for joining IIMCIP happened, and that's how I came here with all this knowledge or skill set, whatever you may say.
Yeah. No, and we are very lucky to have somebody with your background, with your experience at the helm of this institution.
Yeah.
And sir, I'm sure a lot of your background, the discipline you also bring in to your role as administrator, as CEO. Very curious to get into your role today at IIMCIP. Obviously, you mentioned that this opportunity came up while you were on this assignment, and you took it up. Very curious to understand how has your experience been in this role so far, and if you can tell us a little bit about the background of this program. What was the intent behind it, Obviously, there is a beautiful tagline of IIM Calcutta Innovation Park, doing well by doing good. What that means for you personally, and also for the work that you and the whole team is doing.
Okay, so I think this encompasses entire thing that that we are having this event about. So let me first talk about the city of Kolkata, the city of joy.
Sure.
And it's not new to me. I did my MTech and PhD from IIT Kharagpur, so city is not new to me. Nor is the language Bengali and the love for this Bengali language. Certainly, I picked up a lot of it, and still, আমি বুঝতে পারি, বলতে পারি না. I do understand.
Wonderful.
But so I'll just cover a bit about the Kolkata, the city of joy, and
Sure.
I must say that is the new innovation capital of India. If by some measure, if I could say that, or if I could be allowed to say that.
Mm-hmm.
So this city has a very strong legacy of education, science, and intellectual leadership. So its legacy and traditional history gives a very real foundation to grow into an innovation hub of our country, not just a modern aspiration. And so if we sort of go back a little bit into history, we realize that it was the intellectual and educational capital of our country during 19th and 20th centuries, which led to Bengal Renaissance and thinkers like Rajaram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar, Bankim Chattopadhyay, Swami Vivekanand. They all sparked reforms in science, education, social systems, and rational thinking. Exactly, which is the mindset which today young entrepreneurs require, or the mindset that innovation requires. And this city is also home to a lot of prestigious institutions like IIT Kharagpur, of course, the oldest IIT. IIM Calcutta, where I'm sitting right now, this is again the oldest IIM of our country, which was set up initially. And Indian Statistical Institute, IACS, Jadavpur University, you name the most prestigious institutions of our country, and they are all in and around this place, Calcutta. And these are, the oldest and most respected scientific institutions. If we talk about, for example, Indian Association for Cultivation Science, IACS, Dr. C.V. Raman, he discovered Raman effect here in this institute. We talk about ISI, that is Statistical Institute. It was founded by Dr. P.C. Mahalanobis, who laid the foundation of modern statistics in our country and data science in our country. Data science is something that we talk about today. Now it is the most favorite buzzword, data science and AI and ML. You find all the young engineers, aspiring BTech students talk about it. And this was started more than a century ago by Dr. P.C. Mahalanobis. And the other thing is that Calcutta, it offers very affordable infrastructure for growing startup ecosystem. And that makes the young innovators very attractive place to come and work on. You have availability of mentorship, technical mentorship, as well as very, very affordable infrastructure. And that's where the city plays a very pioneering role in molding the industrial and technological development. So everything emerged from here, from this. And not missing out on the rich cultural and creativity, literature, art, technology, which encourages the indigenous and original thinking. And all these adapting to a new technology very in early days of 19th and 20th century. So when I was in Kharagpur, we used to have these debate, literature theaters, and also the concept of adda, what people gather around for a cup of tea and all. And these are the concepts which encourage questioning, discussion, and indigenous original thought. And that's how, the innovation per se does not grow in labs. It grows in these addas and these theaters or roadside shows that we used to do as a student in Kharagpur, and generally it's quite prevalent in entire Calcutta. So I think we can emerge as a major hub for inclusive and sustainable innovation in India. We have the right talent, right technical pool of mind, and we are also very affordable, like I brought it out in the beginning. So
Yeah.
it has always emphasized inclusive growth and public education, producing thinkers, scientists, entrepreneurs from very diverse backgrounds. So this tradition of accessible knowledge makes this whole place very, very apt for innovation. It has a very long entrepreneurship legacy. Industries like Dwarkanath Tagore, Tagore Business Enterprises, which was set up in the 19th century. And it was back then a major center of trade, banking, and shipping. And then we had jute industry taking up during the colonial period, uh, fostering India's first generation of business leaders. And then institutions like Calcutta Stock Exchange were born in those days,
Yep.
British times, and early Indian bank system, which sort of formalized the entrepreneurial activities of our country. And we firmly at IIMCIP, since we are living the legacy of this beautiful city, we consider that entrepreneurship is not about building unicorns. It
Mm-hmm.
is it is about lifting the bottom of the pyramid, making an impact to the grassroots level, meeting unmet needs of the marginalized community, and such actions would always be there in the larger interest of humanity. So
Absolutely.
we are the incubator, which is based out of the oldest IIM of our country, and we feel that startup is not just a business. It is a courage to solve problem, and we consider ourselves to be enabler in that respect, in terms of helping out the startups, entrepreneurs, equipping them with relevant technical expertise, helping them with certain amount of funds where needed, and yes, see to it that they grow and they help our nation in the entrepreneurial sector growth.
Yeah. No, I think very, very beautifully elaborated, sir. I think, yes, we are extremely proud of our history and legacy and heritage. And I think that's also reflected in our institutions that still hold, and stand tall. And IIM Calcutta is one of them for sure. Also very curious to understand, because you talked about, multiple, institutions of eminence from this part of the country. What, and since you've also had this very rigorous academic background, with your research days at IIT Kharagpur, what role have you seen academia play in, I would say, improving entrepreneurship, supporting entrepreneurship, bringing innovation? If you can share some light on that.
So academia plays a very, very vital, very, very essential role in terms of promoting entrepreneurship. So I'm reminded of one of the dohas that I read long time back, which essentially talks about a perfume seller.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel the academic institutions are like those perfume sellers. If they come to your house, even if
Yeah.
they don't sell a perfume, still the entire house is filled with fragrance for a couple of
Mm-hmm.
days at least. So the presence of these academias around us, academia, the institutes, renowned institutes, is something like that. So we have IIM Calcutta entire leadership, professors from IIM Calcutta who are available to us to support any kind of business mentoring that some of our startups may require. We have ISI here, Statistical Institute, one of its kind in the nation. We have IIT Kharagpur, the oldest one. We have Jadavpur University. So all these are at our call. There are professors who've been onboarded already with technical mentoring to the startups whom we incubate. And so if we talk about the support which is given to startups, right from there, if we talk about the entire journey of any entrepreneur, say you call it womb to tomb structure
Mm-hmm.
for supporting the startups. So initially they start with an ideation stage. So when they start with ideation stage, a big challenge for us is to assess whether the idea which young entrepreneur is bringing to the table, is it viable, is it technically viable, and then we get into, once we have a very robust methodology to route it through a mentorship clinic, and then we assess whether it's technically viable. And once it is found that is viable, then we get into it's the financial aspect of it, commercial aspect of it. Is it filling a need of society? Is it has it identified some gap somewhere and it's trying to meet those needs? And then if it is so, then how commercially viable the idea is. Is it going to be feasible with certain amount of capital that we can infuse, or does it require huge amount of funding and thus may make the whole process non-viable? So this entire thing is to be undertaken through incubators like us. So initially, a lot of people thought that there are only two things to be done. One is that you have academia, which is giving the technical knowledge, and you have the industry, which is going to implement that technical knowledge into product. So in between this gap, which was there, which is now being fulfilled by incubators, what we call as these institutions as incubators. So we are incubators of ideas, we are incubators of technology, we are incubators for the startups. And our role is primarily to ensure that whatever deep tech papers that keep getting churned out on a 24/7 basis from academia, to see to it how much of that can be commercialized into some kind of a product, and how much of those products are have a utility for our society, for our common man. And that is where the role of academia comes into play in terms of the technical institutes as well as management institutes. And we as incubator who sort of do the handshake, facilitate the handshake between both, and ensure that the entrepreneur or the startup is able to take all the support. And the most important thing, the third thing that comes to ensure that entrepreneurship does not die out early, is financial support during their valley of death. That is, initial time, the seed funding support or pre-seed support is very, very crucial during the initial phase of the startups. So idea initial requires a lot of capital infusion. So it is our duty to ensure that there's some source of capital, either in terms of non-returnable grant or fund is available to these startups to at least formalize their idea, get into a robust design for their ideas to implement it, and then take it to a prototyping stage.
Yeah, and sir, I think this is obviously very much in your line of experience, because you've also worked in research in one of such institutions. Your prototype, your project, sort of got you into the career that took off for the next 20 years. But sir, one thing that you said that was very, very, I would say, important, and I want to underline that obviously there is a big boom of startups in the whole of the country. And there are certain centers where startups and founders are really glorified by what is the funding they have raised, what is their valuation, billions of dollars of valuation. So that becomes headlines. But what IIM Calcutta Innovation Park is doing differently is focusing on sustainable startups which actually have positive impact on society. And I'll get into some of those examples with you. But the approach is very different. And I guess that is where this importance of this tagline comes, that doing well by doing good. It's not growth at all costs. And you said that, we are not looking for the next unicorn here, but we are trying to build more sustainable startups.
That is true. So, very right. So our aim is to ensure, like I said, that we are not into looking at growing unicorns with us. We are looking at more in terms of working with the grassroots innovators, working for them, working with them, and stay grounded, in touch with the reality, and strive to sort of lift the bottom of the pyramid that is in the societal structure. And in the process, if a few unicorns are born, I think that's coincidental and
Yeah.
not incidental, I may say, but it is certainly not the central idea for us. So we are not against this idea of having unicorns, definitely, but our primary focus is ensuring that we stay grounded and support inclusive innovation, innovation in terms of yes, ensuring that the entire livelihood bottom of the pyramid is it grows and it succeeds and it benefits from whatever innovations we do. And in the process, definitely we'll love to have some unicorns getting born.
Yeah, yeah. And sir, would be great to hear from you, obviously, because within the IIMCIP portfolio there are so many innovative startups, whether it's in the agri sector, manufacturing sector, and more importantly, women-led enterprises, which often are overlooked in the national scheme of things, in the race to funding, in the race to valuation. If you want to share some stories that have really touched your heart from IIMCIP.
Yeah, definitely. There are many of them, a lot of them. In fact, one of our incubatees, which was initially supported by us, called Dehat. So it is, Dehat is also a term which refers to villages, rural areas. And it is spelled as DEHAAT. So heart is also a market. So it talks about kind of a rural markets, agri-tech startup. And so this was one of the earliest startups that we had incubated, and now it's a big name now, unicorn.
Yeah.
They've served about 13 million plus farmers, and their presence is more than 12 states across our country. And they're basically about AI-powered crop advisory group. They also give market linkages. They undertake soil testing and provide all necessary advice to the farmers and connect them with multiple sources of revenues. So this is a big name. Talking about another in the health tech space, there's one startup we supported, 5C Network, that is 5 Charlie Network. And they are a digital radiology platform who are serving about more than 2,000 hospitals in 300 plus cities, small and tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities, and analyzing very complex cases of radiology within few minutes.
Wow.
Some more creative startups, we always tend to think that things from Northeast are less tech-based, but we've been able to again nurture one of the startups which is from Northeast, from Assam, is My 3D Meta, and they are an AI platform making 3D design affordable. So they are focusing mainly on empowering artists rather than using AI to replace them. So there are, and of course, one of our favorite ones, it's a woman-led Farm Didi, is one of the startups that we have supported, and this was featured in Shark Tank India also, and they have helped over 550 rural women to turn traditional recipes into a very thriving business. And some of the startups who are also supported by us from Meghalaya, they work with persons with disabilities. One of them also had the honor of meeting Honorable President of India and sort of getting felicitated. So there are a huge amount of success stories we have, and we are happy that we are able to make our presence felt in this entire region, especially the Northeast and Eastern states, where tech penetration has been slightly less, but we've definitely not not let that be a disadvantage to the people of northern states. We are augmenting those shortfalls through the technical institutes, through the academia that we have.
Wonderfully said, sir. And some of these examples that you mentioned obviously make, for very, very proud reading, because obviously what Dehat has done, what Farm Didi has done, it's excellent work. And not just making it a sustainable business, also, bringing in profitability as well as livelihood. And this is where I'm a little curious to ask you, sir. You mentioned Northeast, and Northeast historically has sort of, not been considered a hub for innovation, a hub for entrepreneurship and startups. But as you mentioned, from the IIMCIP portfolio, there are some wonderful, young startups, entrepreneurs coming out. What do you see from, from your experience, the unique challenges of East and Northeast, and also on the flip side, the advantages of coming from East and Northeast?
So, few points which come to my mind is that, yes, the talent, which is, there is a limited access to specialized skill set of people in that region because you may say the topography is such that there's no space for having a very large scale industry there. And therefore, startups and all, they struggle to find out the right kind of talent pool, as which is commonly available. If you go to Bangalore, you go to Delhi, is very, very commonly available. But in the Northeast, the startups would struggle to find the talent, and it's a very vicious cycle. So startups do not have right talent; they will not grow at the pace or at the trajectory which you try to design for them. And because they are not growing at that faster pace, the talented pool will not be interested in getting onboarded with such startups.
Yeah.
Okay. So a good startup would attract good pool, and good pool make it go better, and then that would improve. But that does not seem to be happening here because of I said that there is limited access to specialized skill set of personnel, and talented pool people therefore do not find such startup options very lucrative. They prefer to join at other places. The second issue that I must say is of the funding. So a lot of venture capitalists, they would tend to benchmark these startups in Northeast against the backdrop of those which are based out of metros, where the dynamics of those startups are entirely different. So seed grants and early stage support from the state and central government, and some of the capital infusion through the incubators like IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. While these will enable the ventures to validate their ideas and build initial traction, but this cannot be sustainable. For sustaining the business of a startup, we need more capital infusion, and that is where the venture capitalists, their role comes into play. And a lot of them, they tend to look the other side when it comes to funding startups in the Northeast, because they know this gap. So this is the funding gap which the government is trying to address to quite some extent. But we have seen that a lot of these very, very promising ventures, often they plateau prematurely, or they're unable to transition from small sustainable business to high profit and sustainable growth because of lack of funding at the right time. So this is a second big challenge that we have. And third is, again, the market size. Because of low densely populated area, the domestic consumption itself is very less. That makes it the entire market very traditional, and scalability matrix is very low. And that, because of low indigenous market size, that brings me to the fourth issue of expensive logistics infrastructure. Now, because local consumption is less, we need to have very good logistics infrastructure to ensure that these things are transported to the other states, to northern and western states, central states, where their consumption can be utilized. Now, because of the road connectivity, which becomes very, very doubtful and highly unreliable during the monsoons, with landslides, etc., quite often happening, the warehouse facilities, which have a limited real estate size, so their size is very limited. You find that most of the stuff which is grown in Northeast has to be transported to either West Bengal or brought to the mainland in the central states, and the large warehouses presence is only possible there, where the real estate is higher. So this becomes a big challenge, and eventually what happens is that when a startup incurs so much of expenses on transportation and logistics supply chain, the product eventually becomes so you can imagine a similar product coming from, say, Arunachal Pradesh would be at least 2 to 3 times more expensive if it was grown locally, say in Hyderabad or in Delhi or in any other part of our country. And with this, like I said, it's a very vicious cycle. If there is relatively low growth, exposure of people is also less, and the exposure of people is less. So imagine some startup interacting in places like Bangalore, where they get to meet all big swords, many founders who are already unicorns. They get to interact with them. They are constantly surrounded by success stories of people who have done well in their business. So they have a big picture. They can imagine a few tons of supply, whereas in the Northeast, startup working in same segment, same sector would imagine that, okay, a few kilos of product would be good enough, or maybe few quintals would be good enough. You can't imagine getting to hundreds of tons and transporting them to the other cities. So that exposure is very less, and it is incumbent upon institutions like us that we bridge this exposure gap, we bridge this technology gap, we bridge all that. Of course, we have also our limitations, and though in our best ways, we are trying to ensure that they do not suffer due to any technology bandwidth, or they do not suffer due to any logistics supply chain or any funding requirements. So we have certain schemes from various central government and other state governments. Through that, we try to infuse capital into the startups whenever required. And through the collaborations with academia that we have, we try to bring the right kind of mentors to guide the startups to sort of grow and accelerate with the trajectory that we want them to. And this is all. We hope that, yes, our efforts are useful to the startups and helps them.
And sir, I think the point that you mentioned, I think to take that point a little forward, is obviously there is some structural challenges for the Northeast, and obviously the IIM Calcutta Innovation Park is doing a lot to bridge those gaps, those challenges. Very curious to understand. You mentioned lack of VC funding, lack of exposure. But there are also certain, as you mentioned, government schemes, government programs that are specifically targeted to make the entrepreneurship development more inclusive. Tell us a little bit about the experience of working with governments, CSR initiatives, corporates who exist in this area, East, Northeast, or even from beyond this side of the country. What has been the experience of IIMCIP in their partnerships with government programs, CSR programs, and corporate sponsorship, corporate partnership?